Welcome to our service, and I hope you've been finding it uplifting so far. I'm not a very creative person, but I do enjoy it when I see instances of people exercising their creativity. And not long ago, probably only a week ago, there was a man, a Turkish man, who went paragliding on a bed. He paraglided uh, on his in his bed suite, and he even tried to fake a little going to sleep part in it. Now you can see that if you've got the order of service that we send out usually, there's a YouTube link to that. Have a look at it. Um, pretty risky. I wouldn't want to be doing that, but funny and worth having a look at. I suppose that man was taking something that was known, paragliding, and taking it to a new level. Today we're talking about innovation in our series from the Baptist Union that we've been doing over the last couple of months. And Christine Wanstall is somebody from the Baptist Union that has actually visited our church a few times. Some of you would remember her. And this is what she says uh, about innovation. It's the act of creating a new method, idea, or product, or improving something that already exists. It is change that adds value. It is generally agreed that in a changing world, businesses can only survive by continually innovating. In this time of COVID, uh, the world has had to do that a lot. A lot of us, everyone perhaps, has connected more uh, over the phone and in various ways through social media than they've ever done before. We've done things, important things, like work and school remotely using our devices. Zoom, which is one of the mediums that has been used, has actually increased um, it, its usage by 350% in just 3 months. Pretty amazing, and it's brought a lot of money into the company also. So all of those are examples of us doing things that we were doing before, but using new methods to do them. And it's been the same at church too. A number of people have been faithfully ringing up others just to find out how they were. And since COVID started, we've been probably doing that, I think, more consistently than we were before, doing it more intentionally. Some people are making more of a conscious effort to do practical things for people, like prepare meals and things like that. And a number of us have been, for the last 4 to 5 months, on a Wednesday evening, meeting together to pray using Zoom. And I've been really impressed at the way that probably some people who never used Zoom before have been connecting through Zoom so that we could pray together. And there's been, up to 8 to 12 people each Wednesday, and we have a great time. Not only that, but twice in the last couple of months, we talked live to our church missionaries. We talked to the vicars, the family in Germany, and we also talked to Paul and Penny Wilcox in Thailand. So they were able to join us live and share in our church prayer meeting. Fantastic experience. So in some of those cases where we've had to use online, we were already doing things before, but COVID has made it a necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. But here's another question I have in light of that. Is invention or innovation something that we only do because of necessity? Or is it something that's inbuilt in us? And some people tend to have that sort of creative nature and they do it, or they're not satisfied with the status quo. So they're always looking to do things in a new way. A couple of examples of that. Just to say that sometimes there is a great need or a challenge that brings about innovation. And one of the movies that Margaret and I have really enjoyed sometime over the last couple of months is Ford versus Ferrari, where the Ford company were a bit put out by the fact that Ferrari, their competitor, was constantly winning, was dominating the Le Mans event in France. It's a big race, a grueling race, 24 hours of racing. And they wanted to overcome that domination. So they hired this car designer called Carroll Shelby, and along with his English racing driver, Miles, they designed a racing car, which was successful, and they were able, for the first time, to win. And Ford won that race 4 times in a row, from 66 to 69. Martin Luther is someone we're probably all familiar with. He was a monk in the 16th century who was doing everything he could to please God. But he didn't have peace with God. And then he discovered that the only way to have peace with God was to accept God's grace in his life, that he was saved through God's grace alone. It was not because of what he could do. And when he discovered that, that was the start of the Protestant Reformation. But that made changes not only for individuals, but touched the whole of society at that time. A great need led to a change which began a period of transformation, not just for individuals, but for society. Now, a call to be a follower of Jesus is also a call to transformation. Someone has said, transformed people never want to go back to the way things were. Jesus once said to a Jewish scholar, "You must be born again." The Apostle Paul said, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. And that's touching the fact that God continues his creative work that he started at the beginning when he created the world. He continues his creative work in us through Christ. We are told that the Holy Spirit is at work in us, changing us, and continually improving us. For the Lord is the Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So all of us who have had that veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like him as we are changed into his glorious image. In the preceding verses, Paul is basically comparing the way people used to believe with the transformation that Christ brings. Jesus said, you can't put old wine into, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. And we've come across that passage a few times in the last few weeks. Very important little passage of Jesus. because the radical and transforming message of Jesus needs to be protected from being veiled. So Paul was basically saying in that verse we just read that the Jews of his day weren't getting the message of Jesus because it was like there was a veil over their eyes. It was like they were blinded. And the message of Jesus must not be quashed, and it must not be watered down by putting it in structures that don't convey the message anymore. That's why innovation is necessary if we want to be a flourishing church now and post-COVID. Let's think for a moment where we are in the world right now, because these are momentous times, momentous circumstances that we're living in. But if we're convinced that God exists and that God through Christ can not only transform us, but transform the world, then it's also a significant time for the church. An Australian pastor, Mark Sayers, reminds us that we shouldn't look at COVID as just an event, say like September 11th, because September 11th, as momentous as it was, has passed. It's history now. COVID is still with us. And even when it finishes or diminishes, we don't know to what degree it will still linger. That's what we're hearing. Another man called Tim Dyer has, for 25 years, and I've had the privilege of attending a couple of his workshops, has been helping churches right across Australia to try and, he does his church reviews. He kind of looks at church health, and he's helping churches to review where they are and try to organize themselves in ways that they can be an effective church, if you like, a flourishing church in the future. He's been doing that all across Australia, and he does it very well. I'd like to have a look at this quote of his because I think it is really significant. Recovery can't be programmed. It begins naturally as soon as the tempo of the immediate crisis slows enough to give us psychological, spiritual, and emotional space to think and act independently of the crisis itself. Life is returning to the streets, but it won't be the same life that we have known. Recovery is the process of adapting to accept and thrive in a pandemic-aware society. In our recovery work with organisations, we summarise the 4 main restorative processes as truth-telling, building trust through clear, honest communication, justice-seeking, doing the right thing by people and society, even if it is hard, grace-giving, being kind, generous, forgiving, and merciful, peacemaking, doing the sometimes hard work of enabling cooperation, teamwork, shared vision, and values in times of tension. So Tim Dyer and Mark Sayers and lots of church leaders around the Christian world are calling us to think about how innovation might be one way which could help churches right now. Now, we said that to innovate was to do something in a new way or to improve the way we'd done it before. And I want to end with just some practical suggestions about how we could do that in our own lives and in our church. Now, these are not profound things. Innovation is not just about some great discovery that no one sort of thought of and it's absolutely momentous. These are small things. These are kind of everyday things that I believe we're all capable of doing and sometimes just need to be aware of what the possibilities are. So I want to just share some of those with you now. So the first one is the priesthood of all believers. Martin Luther, who we were talking about before, was one of the people that kind of, I guess, resurrected that sense of, because he opened people's eyes to the scriptures, or eventually that's what happened because of the Reformation. And people began to see, and Baptists certainly embrace this as something that is very, very specific and very important to them. That we're all priests. You know, Martin Luther was part of a system where the priests were above the people and they dominated the people. People were scared of them, and they were the ones with the power. But that all changed in the New Testament when Jesus came, and the New Testament churches are much more, much less hierarchical, but also everybody is capable of being a priest. Scott reminded us of that when he talked about identity a few weeks ago, and he quoted the passage from Peter, which says that you are a kingdom of priests. All of you are priests. So we can be serving God, and we can be serving each other and serving people. That's what we are called to do as a church. So let's do that. And this is it. In a sense, that's the overriding point in the other points that I want to share. The second one is get acquainted with technology. Now, I'm not saying that we have to do this, but in this time already, as I referred to before, people have realized that technology is useful for them. And people have actually gone to that next step of learning about it. So I myself, right now, this is the first time I've done a message using Zoom, and I've had quite a bit to learn about it just this week, and I'm still learning, as you will probably see from the way this comes across today. But if you would like to know a little more about how you can use technology, please ask somebody, because it can be really frustrating if you don't do that, and you know, you can waste a lot of time, and I understand that because I have. Ask someone in the church, ask us, and even if we can't help, someone else will put you onto someone else that can help you. The next one's really important. Adopt an outward blessing mentality. COVID has forced us to go inward, but now it's time to go outward into the community that God has asked us to bring blessing to, and to reach out to. And there are lots of little things that we could be doing. You know, we've got some new neighbours. They've been next door for about the last 3 months, and they've got 3 boys. And the youngest boy, because it's September and I've been working a bit on my vegetable garden in the backyard, he and I had these little conversations because he's playing in his backyard, and their house is higher than us, so it's quite visible. I can see him over the fence, and we talk, and I ask him questions, and he asks me questions. And sometimes his mum comes out, and so I say hello to her. It's a very small thing, but it's an indication of there's things all around us that we can be doing. When you go to the shop, do you greet people? And I know some people do that. Greet them. Sometimes you might be able to help someone. You know, sometimes someone's struggling with their trolley or with something else, and this is an opportunity to intentionally seek to do good for someone, to bless somebody. You might be at the park with your children or your child, and you'll see other people there. Well, strike up a conversation, say hello to them. Just make a start, do something like that. when you go walking down the street, lots of people are walking, much more than I've ever noticed before in Bacchus Marsh. Or even when you're driving down the street, pray for people, pray for houses, pray for your neighbours' houses, pray for the people's houses you walk past. Seek to bring God's blessing on our community. And then spiritually, this is something that we need to also do for ourselves. Ask yourself, what can I do for my spiritual life? You might just think, sorry, I've lost my place for a moment there. You might sort of think, where am I at the moment, and what do I need, and what can I do about it? And if you need someone to talk to you to help to unravel that, well, please come and see Scott or myself. Please contact us, or contact a leader of the church, or contact a friend, but do something about it. Don't just let yourself be where you are. Try and look for ways to advance in your own spiritual life. And the last thing is agility. Someone has said that agility will matter a lot more in the future. Now, agility is a little bit like adaptability, but a little bit different. And the way I like to remember it is that cats are very agile animals. Now, I know that because when I was probably a teenager, I heard, and we had lots of cats and at different times, and I heard that cats were very agile and very flexible, and you could drop a cat upside down, and when it reached the ground, it would turn on its legs. And being a teenage boy, I tried it, and sure enough, it worked. The cat landed on its legs. But I was thinking about that a few days ago, and what a great image it is for us right now. COVID has caused us, has kind of turned the world upside down. But we want to land right way up, don't we? And God has given us resources. In fact, we belong to a God, a creative God, that has made it possible for us to do that, to land right way up, even in a challenging time like we are at the moment. And the other aspect about agility is that Christian leaders would say that leaders, church leaders, all of us, need to have that quality about us, and need to kind of maybe intentionally look for ways that we can also be more agile, more ready, more able to make changes and help others to make changes. And Scott also mentioned in one of his messages in the last few weeks on leadership that there might be formal leaders, but lots of us lead in different situations all the time. We lead as parents, and even if you're a child or a teenager, you lead others too. You influence others. So we're all leaders, and we can all learn agility, the ability to change and be appropriate, sometimes in a kind of a situation where we normally not be able to do that so quickly. So it's something that we, in a sense, can train ourselves to do. So we are always, as Christians, being encouraged to grow. The scriptures constantly tell us that we need to grow closer to God and therefore more effective in our world. And I think that we've been doing really well coping at this time with some challenges that are around us. But could we perhaps try to bring in now this aspect of innovation into our church life, and into the way we operate, to use this God-given ability to make things work better. And in doing that, I believe, along with all the other things that we've been looking at, we can be a flourishing church, a church that impacts our community and that is a really essential support to this community at this time. Thank you.